Ready for a deep dive into some serious growth?
Oh yeah, buckle up.
Today we're talking about transformation on a global scale. We're going inside the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Looking at how it's changed and grown, huh?
You got it. And we've got a great vantage point for this. We're digging into a speech called A Record of What I Have Both Seen and Heard.
Okay, who's the voice behind it?
That would be Elder Brent H. Nielson. He gave this speech back in April.
I
And here's the interesting part. Nielson's got a legal background.
Ooh, a lawyer's perspective.
Yeah.
I like it. So he's bringing that analytical mindset to his experiences within the faith.
Exactly. He even kicks things off by comparing legal testimony, what you've seen and heard in court, to sharing a testimony of faith.
That's a fascinating parallel. What's he getting at there?
I think he's tapping into the power of personal experience. Whether we're talking about a courtroom or matters of belief, we're drawn to firsthand accounts.
Makes sense. Anyone can read a dry account of something, but hearing someone say, I was there, or I felt this change, it just hits differently.
It's that credibility factor.
It goes beyond just stating facts and figures. Personal witness adds this weight of human experience. It's like, I'm not just telling you, I'm sharing what I lived.
Okay, so picture this. You're a young Brent Nielson back in high school. To graduate from seminary, you had to memorize the locations of all the Latter-day Saint temples, all 15 of them.
15.
That's it.
Yeah, back then it was a big deal. But for our listeners who might not be familiar with temples...
Right, they're not just your average church building.
Well,
exactly. For members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they hold a special significance.
they're seen as sacred spaces, right? Where members participate in essential ceremonies and make sacred covenants.
You got it. It's not just about Sunday worship, it's about those deeper commitments. So 15 temples back then seemed like a lot.
I can imagine.
But hold on to your hats. Today, there are over 300 operating or announced. It's been an incredible period of growth.
That's not just about having more buildings, though, is it? That kind of expansion points to something deeper.
Absolutely. It signifies making those sacred spaces and the profound experiences they offer available to a much larger global membership.
It's like democratizing access to something once limited.
Right, and it goes hand in hand with another point Nielson makes about family search. You familiar with it?
Of course. The genealogy website, right? It's a goldmine of information.
Exactly. He mentions over 1 million new names are added to their database every single day.
1 million new names every day. Wow. That's incredible.
It's mind-boggling, and it speaks to a core belief within the faith, this desire to connect families across generations, to stretch beyond the veil, so to speak.
And it's not just building a family tree. It's about this much grander vision of an interconnected, eternal family.
Exactly. And technology is playing a huge role in making that a reality. But to really grasp the scope of this global reach, we need to retrace Nielson's own path. He starts in Idaho, a pretty localized view, wouldn't you say?
For sure.
And then, boom, he's called to be a general authority, serving in the Pacific area. Talk about a change of scenery.
That's a huge shift in perspective. Yeah. Going from a regional view to overseeing a vast area of the church. Where did that take him?
We're talking New Zealand with stakes, and just so our listeners know, stakes are like dioceses in other churches.
Regional groupings of congregations.
Right. So stakes all over New Zealand, then Australia, with temples popping up in major cities, Samoa, Tonga. The Pacific region is booming with Latter-day Saints.
He's seen firsthand the diversity of the church in these island nations, from larger established communities to those smaller pockets of members in places like Kiribati, the Marshall Islands, even Papua New Guinea.
It really is fascinating to see how faith takes root and adapts across different cultures. But here's what I find particularly interesting. Even someone at Nielson's level, a leader in the church, can still be taken by surprise.
Really? How so?
He talks about his assignment to the Philippines, and I'm quoting him here. To my surprise, the Church of Jesus Christ in the Philippines is growing beyond anything I had realized. He found out there are over 850,000 members there.
He had no idea.
Well, he knew the church was present there, but the sheer scale of it caught him off guard. It makes you wonder what makes the Philippines such fertile ground.
It's a fascinating case study in religious transformation. You have this history with Spain, a predominantly Catholic nation, which introduced Christianity to the islands, then layer on a culture that's often very open to spirituality, and you might have this unique openness to the message of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
So it's not just about missionary work, but about how a message resonates with existing values and beliefs. It's that cultural interplay that sparks growth.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of understanding those nuances, those historical and cultural contexts, when we talk about the growth of any faith, really. And that interplay, that cultural exchange, it becomes even more apparent as we follow Nielsen's travels.
Because the travel log doesn't end there. He's like a man on a mission experiencing the church in every corner of the globe.
It's really something.
Yeah.
From Asia, we're talking Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, to a swing through Europe, a little Caribbean sunshine, time in Latin America, and he even makes it to Africa.
Talk about a world tour. It really underscores his point. This isn't some regional movement. He's seeing the church's presence on a global scale.
And this is where I think his legal background adds such an interesting layer.
Oh, so?
Well, he's not just observing the diversity of cultures, he's analyzing how the message of the church is shared and received within each unique context.
Like a lawyer tailoring their arguments to connect with a jury.
Exactly. It requires a deep understanding of the audience, their values, their background.
And while those specifics might change from place to place, I bet there are some universal threads that tie these experiences together.
Absolutely. We're talking about those fundamental human experiences, that longing for connection, the search for purpose, the desire for something bigger than ourselves.
The things that transcend borders and languages.
Right. Those are the bedrock of the human experience, regardless of where you're from or what you believe.
Which brings to mind the sheer effort required to share a message globally. Nielsen drops this amazing statistic: 74,000 missionaries speaking 60 languages. Can you imagine?
That's incredible. And it's worth noting that many of these missionaries are young adults, often just 18, 19, 20 years old.
It's like their own version of a gap year, right? Instead of backpacking through Europe, they're diving into new languages and cultures to share their beliefs.
It makes you think about how this modern missionary effort compares to historical precedents. In the past, it was limited by geography, by resources, by political climates. Today, we have globalization, advancements in communication, ease of travel. It's a completely different landscape.
So it's not just about having a message anymore, it's about having the means to share it on this massive scale.
Exactly. And we can't underestimate the impact of our interconnected world. Social media, instant communication, the global exchange of ideas, it's created a certain openness to different beliefs.
Like the world's become a smaller, more porous place when it comes to faith.
In many ways, it has. And that creates fertile ground for these kinds of movements to take root and flourish in ways that wouldn't have been possible a few decades ago.
It's really quite astounding when you stop and think about it. But for Nielsen, it always comes back to the personal.
It's not just about the institution. He's careful to highlight the individuals within the church who drive its growth through their own conviction.
Bringing us full circle to that idea of personal witness.
It's like in a courtroom, multiple testimonies, each with a unique perspective on a shared event, building a stronger case.
And in this instance, Nielsen's seen and heard moments create this vivid tapestry of a vibrant, evolving faith.
While acknowledging that every member have their own seen and heard moments, those personal confirmations that strengthen their belief.
It's like he's saying, don't just take my word for it. Go have your own experiences. Find those confirmations for yourself.
Yes, it's about that personal quest for truth and meaning that ultimately resonates most deeply.
And this is where Nielsen takes us beyond just observation. He ends with this really powerful call to action.
Yeah, he's not content to just let us observe. We can't be passive here.
Right. He's urging listeners to be part of this ongoing story, to get involved.
To be active participants.
Exactly. He talks about preparing missionaries, making covenants, establishing the church. These aren't things of the past. They're happening right now.
He's pushing for continued action, keeping that momentum going. It really highlights how dynamic faith can be.
It's not static. It's not some fixed thing.
Right. It's constantly evolving, adapting, responding to the world around it, like a living, breathing organism.
I love that analogy, and it leads to a question that really stuck with me. If this level of growth and change is possible within one organization, what does that say about our potential on a larger scale? In societies, across cultures, even globally?
Oh, no, that's a question worth chewing on.
Right. Nielsen's challenging us to zoom out, to see the bigger picture, to recognize the potential for change both individually and collectively.
And even more importantly, maybe, to consider what role each of us wants to play in that change.
Yeah.
Whether it's in our faith, in social justice, in protecting our planet, we have that capacity within us. It's waiting to be unleashed.
That's a powerful thought to end on. We're not just bystanders in history, we're active participants.
We shape the future with every choice we make.
Exactly. We have a say in how this story unfolds, and that's, I think, an incredibly hopeful message. Well, folks, We've reached the end of another deep dive. We've journeyed through personal experiences, explored global transformations, and even pondered our own roles in shaping the future.
It's been quite the ride.
It really has. And until next time, keep those questions coming, keep seeking those seen and heard moments, and keep diving deep into the stories that matter.